That's a nice response. And it gives a balanced life. Correct. It is required for overall well-being, overall health. That's according to Sheila ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's correct. Well-being means positive aspects of life, including mental health. Most important, learning new skills, good relationships, and able to live in the present moment. This is a very good response, and I think this is from Dr. Sri Lakshmi. Oh yes, she's covered all the important aspects. I think I'm sure Dr. Kishor should agree with me. Let's see in a few minutes. So Dr. Renuka, absence of remorse, hatredness, anger. Yes, ma'am, very important. So we need to be away from all these negative emotions if we have to have a well-being, physically, mentally well-being life. Navya says, well-being is a word which describes the person in both mental and physical state. Yes, everybody is talking about mental and physical state. Losing balance in any can lead to change in the term, right? Pravalika, well-being is being healthy mentally, physically, emotionally. And yes, it has definitely changed during pandemic. Yes. So what we can say that the thoughts of well-being has changed and it's become very unsecure, especially economic, financial, work life, family life. So most of you have commented that well-being is physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Okay. So those are some of the very interesting comments. Are we good to start, ma'am? Dr. Ashwini, ma'am? So it's 10:44.
Kishor, sir? Dr. Kishor?
Hello, yeah.
Sir, should we go ahead or wait for a few more minutes?
Yes, whatever you say.
Okay. Okay, sir. Dr. Nikita?
Yes, ma'am.
Shall we start?
Okay.
Sumuk?
Ma'am, we can have the poll result first and then we can, as sir suggested, right, sir?
Yeah, have the poll
Sumuk, let's have an introduction to sir first.
Sure, ma'am. I'll just share my screen now.
Yeah.
Getting back to where we left off, I'm pleased to invite Dr. Kishor to share his thoughts on this topic of well-being. Dr. Kishor is an associate professor in the Department of Psychiatry, JSS Medical College and Hospital, Mysuru. He is the member secretary of the JSS Brain Bank and Research, and also the member of Postgraduate Board of Studies, JSS Medical College and Hospital, Mysuru. He has been awarded the National Fellowship of the Dr. Ramachandra N. Murthy Foundation for Mental Health and Neurological Sciences and was awarded the 11th International Neuropsychiatry Association T.S. Srinivasan Award in 2018. He has presented at various national and international conferences and has over 100 publications to his name. Along with Dr. Kishor, we have Dr. Samya, who will be sharing her thoughts as a reflection panelist on this topic. Dr. Samya is a prosthodontist working as an assistant professor in the Department of Prosthodontics and Crown and Bridge, JSS Dental College since the last 11 years. She has completed her PhD in the year 2020 from JSS Academy of Higher Education and Research. She is passionate about educating students and serving geriatric patients. She has 22 publications, more than 25 scientific presentations, and has also been awarded for her research work. She is a reviewer of various journals, is an associate editor for a journal, and also has authored 2 monographs. I now welcome Dr. Kishor for his session. Over to you, sir.
I think they want to discuss about the polls.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Post it right away. These are the 4 results which we had got. I hope you can see them on your screen. Over
So Kishor sir, can you please have a discussion on this?
Sure. I hope people have not used the Google to get the right answer. And I personally believe that many people are honest and they have picked up the right thing. in most of the aspects. So I will take up each question in my presentation. I hope everybody will enjoy the presentation and the answers will be automatically there, and the context of these questions have been raised. That would be, and then I would ask everyone to go back and see the answers, what they have typed. Will that be okay?
Perfect, sir.
Yeah, fine. Okay. So shall we start the presentation? Shall I share my slides?
Sure, sir.
Yeah. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay. So it's a great time to re-look at the well-being, and because this is a professional body which is conducting, and I'm going to give you a lot of evidence to back up what I'm going to say, but I will leave it to your wisdom on how you want to consider the points I'm going to raise to you. So the first thing I'm going to do is that gratitude. I believe that it's an essential component of well-being. Some of you have already put how much we should be thankful because we are safe, we are comfortable, we have our family members, and we are in this program to learn. And this gives us immense joy in the middle of such a disastrous pandemic which is affecting this nation. And I'm personally thankful to the principal and the organizing committee for giving me some thoughts on how I can take this topic with so many of you there coming over. So I'm thankful to the organizing secretary, Dr. Ashwini TK, personally because she has been taking care of me and my family members. Madam, thank you to you. To Dr. Nandalal, who was the first person who wrote a chapter in our book called as Glimpse of Psychiatry, which turns out to be the best book for undergraduates so far. To Dr. Dakshayani, with whom I worked quite many years back when she was running the magazine, and now she is in the administrative section and she supports all our endeavor. To Principal Dr. Chandrasekhar BR, with whom we already have a joint research proposal. To Dr. Harsha, who in the middle of pandemic, when there was such a severity, he helped me to extract my tooth. So I'm really thankful. Dr. Indira, who helped my son. Dr. Nagbhushan, I don't know whether he is there. He's a person who helped me when I wanted to be part of this AM TST University Exchange Program in Malaysia. He was there earlier. And dear friend, Dr. Prashant, if he is listening, and my friend, Dr. Vasant, who is there in Bangalore, who has been helping me for a couple of years. So I believe if you want to discuss the topic on well-being, gratitude is the stepping stone of it. Now, deeply, as we talk, some of our friends and family members are in the hospital. In last couple of weeks, we would have heard that we lost so many. Some of them are so dear to us. Some of them are acquaintances, but all of them have been COVID victims. My deep condolence to those people whom we have lost due to COVID, and more importantly, to those family members who have been able to sustain the life in this unbearable loss. So it's a moment of gratitude for us to express our condolence to the COVID victims in this process. Now I'm going to bring this topic right away, well-being, and many of you have answered really well. It's very difficult whom should be getting goodies, but I have picked one or two and I will give it to the organizing committee. What actually is well-being? Now the Oxford Dictionary, which we all take, they state being and doing well in life, happy, healthy, or prosperous. Very interestingly, they have used either you should be prosperous or healthy. Cambridge University, which again is one of the best dictionaries, they say a state of feeling healthy and happy. I really like this definition. They have used the word, if you are feeling healthy and happy, that's the best way of being well in this concept of well-being. What is very good about is that it does not look at how people look at you. If you are feeling happy and healthy, that should be enough. So The medical people, I hope in the dental science also, people look at Webster. And Webster Dictionary tells us that for well-being, they have used the word happy, healthy, and prosperous. Now, the mere use of word prosperous means you should be rich by money. And many of you have mentioned about economy in your concept of well-being in the chat box. Second, you should be successful. Now, successful is a very, very subjective term. Sometimes people attribute looking at you that you are successful. So this is a whole concept of well-being. And when people really wanted to see what well-being is about, they have looked at it's a good life at work, it's a good life in love and relationship, and it's a good life in health and self-care. This is what people have conceptualized of well-being. But are we really thinking of well-being when we listen to this work, love, relationship, and other things? The answer is no. People found that these are just a small component, but people are interested in like this n number of features. They say financial security. They say you should have leisure. They say you should have happy marriage. Then you should travel a lot. You should own a home and you should control your own life. You should have a very interesting job. You should have good children. You should have spiritual enrichment and you should have a nice garden and clothes and jewelry. Without that, how can there be well-being? People also have said you should have a nice college education. You should have the best gadgets, your phones and your laptops and whatever you say. Obviously, people think that you should have a luxury car or a second car. So this is the whole thing, what people assumed and said what good life is about. Now, what has happened when we say about revisiting well-being in the current pandemic? It's all about safety. Are you getting the best mask? Have you been vaccinated? Does your family has received the vaccination? Do you have a hospital bed? Are you going to get a bed with oxygen? Is there an injection remdesivir available? And the last is that do you have your own burial ground, crematorium? And all this became suddenly in the concept of well-being. And my friend who is a millionaire, just 2-3 days back, I think he has not less than 3 to 5 crores, but he did not get single bed in a district hospital. In the entire district, he roamed and roamed. Ultimately, he went 100 miles and occupied a bed. Fortunately, he survived. Unfortunately, 2 days later, his father succumbed to the COVID just there. Now, when you think about the well-being, about relationship, about your financial security, nothing mattered and everything was about the bed, treatment and care. And with all these things, many people did not survive. So I think now it is the time for us to relook. What exactly are we thinking about well-being? Now, I want to say that healthcare professionals played an important role in well-being of the people in this COVID-19 era. So if you are part of this health university, I think you should be very lucky because health professionals were the first people who were there on the ground during pandemic, right there to take care of patients and their family members, whether it is dentist or other health professional. We should really pat our back and say that we stood the ground and said that we will do our best. And I'm personally thankful to people in dental sciences who supported me and my family in the pandemic with all the measures you took care of. So I think this is a time we need to relook about our work. Despite the danger, we have redefined the concept of well-being. Now, when we say about well-being, it's all about our coping skill, relearning, and accepting. I'm going to give you evidence for all. What is the meaning of coping skill? What do you mean by relearning? And the last is about accepting. And when you look at this image, we are re-looking at how we want to consider well-being. We want to clean up many things, throw up many things, and work for newer and newer things. Now, coping in COVID-19 is a difficult task. I think I'm not the only person. You would have gone through same thing. At 8:45, acquaintance gives me a call that one of his relative died at 7 o'clock and no body was given to him. The Panchayat Development Officer refused to accept the body. They went around and around till 5 p.m. for nearly 12 hours with a body where they could not cremate. Then at 9:15, you come to the hospital. There's a colleague whose mother is 70, suspected carcinoma. They want to take it to CT. She's non-COVID, but there are a lot of concerns. At 10 o'clock, we have to meet and listen to a family. Unfortunately, the entire family is affected. They give you a call repeatedly because they don't know what to do, as nobody in the family is not a patient without COVID and everybody seems to be running fever. At 11 o'clock, you have a preparation to discuss with children whose mother is in ICU. She does not have COVID. She developed stroke, but she is unlikely to recover and death might be imminent. We have two young children. One of them is in the medical college. We don't know what to speak to them and how to help them to accept this inevitability. At 11:30, you receive a call at emergency. There is a suspected patient with COVID, but we cannot admit him because there is no facility to handle two things simultaneously. We struggle. At 11:45, we receive a call from a friend. The friend's acquaintance is in COVID ward. It's not about that person, but there is a body of a person who died 2 hours ago, and the body is still there in another hospital. We don't know whom to contact. At 12 o'clock, you receive a WhatsApp, an unknown person talking about fear of death. You don't know whether you should respond to it or talk to a person immediately, or you should continue to do your clinical work. At 12:20, you have a tele-round with COVID-19. So I believe in this couple of days, all of us seem to have undergone many things simultaneously. And when we say coping, it is about immediately trying to do what is best possible, then withdrawing ourselves, then relooking at the new challenge, reworking the strategies, and all the time you have to sustain your calm and composed mind and do all things possible from your end. So COVID is telling us we have to cope up every minute, every second, every day with new challenges and new possibilities. Now, what is this relearning about? It would be foolish to think that well-being can be discussed in isolation. COVID-19 is teaching us that it's a great disaster when there is a conflict between humans and the nature. I hope all of you know, after water, concrete is the most widely used substance in the world. And if you look at India, the green cover is 19%. In Bhutan, it is 70%. Now, all of you know there is only two possibilities why we had COVID pandemic. The first possibility and most accepted is it is zoonotic transmission. You just take away the forest. There is drastic climatic change. The animals will come closer to the humans because there is no place to go. And everybody in science knows that the natural bacteria and virus will move from the animals to humans when there is an opportunity. Whether it's SARS, MERS, COVID-19 is nothing but a zoonotic transmission, and COVID-19 is a natural consequence of this. Now, the other new hypothesis everybody is reading in the newspaper is that some people deliberately made the virus with lot of challenges in experimentation of new discoveries. Well, whether you believe this or you don't believe it, it is a man-made disaster. And when we talk about well-being, there is a lot of evidence to say that if you really want to be happy, look at the greenery around you, whether you are getting the fresh air, are you in the best environment, If it is disaster anywhere, you will not be spared. But people ask, what is the evidence? And Tim Kessler in 2013 came out with a original RCT studies, because dental, in many people in medical profession, they say whether it is randomized control trial. Yes, this is a randomized control trial. He said, the conclusion is that well-being changes with materialistic goal of people. What they did was they took up many people in their trial. Some people, they looked at what materials they have and gradually reduced the materials they had in their access. What happened? Interestingly, whenever there was decrease in the need and the disappearance of materials, the well-being improved. It came in the future of BBC. You can access it on 21st May 2020. So dear friends, when we talk about well-being and look at the environment, remember your well-being is closely and intimately associated with the nature around you. So think of what will make you feel better and what is pandemic teaching you. The next thing is that very much people are in keen and interest to know who is this person and which country is very happy. And United Nations came out with the report 2021. And it said that Finland is the #1 country where most people think they are happy. And what do they make out of it? It looks like social support, personal freedom, gross domestic product, GDP is very high, and levels of corruption are very low. Now, same report in 2020, Asia report came, and they said India bribery rate is 37%. Now, what is this association with well-being and human values? It's a very simple association. Everybody knows about it. Very simple. If you're honest, you have a lot of human values. You have too many hurdles. But you seem to have too many stresses in a short duration, but long term, you seem to be very peaceful. But you will come across many who are dishonest. They don't have human values. Surprisingly, you will be astonished. They seem to have no hurdles and problems. They have short-term peace and long-term stress. But the question is there evidence? Well, in 2020, there is an award which went for in the name of Dr. C. Shamsundar. What did they do? They looked at all the people in anesthesia who worked so intensively in COVID care, because you know it is the people in anesthesia who are running the all ICU center. It's a very stressful period. And what they looked at is that those anesthesia professionals who held on to their cherished human values, even during pandemic, sustained well-being better than those who gave up. So this group gave us a very nice insight that despite pandemic, those of you felt that you should do good, you should be sacrificing something, you should help somebody, you should support someone in middle of your crisis. Remember, these people seem to be feeling better and felt very happy with what they are doing. It's a wonderful study, and sometimes you can reflect, have you seen such kind of things? Now, I'm going to talk about accepting. Now, many people have witnessed what happened in our surrounding, and well-being is also about accepting death. There's a very nice statement, can accepting death inspire the life you truly desire? It's a paradox. So once you accept death, will you start cherishing life? Now, there are only two categories of people, those who believe in science and those who really believe in spirituality. Either ways, death is a combination of understanding in both the parameters. How is it? I'll just explain with the science and spirituality, you know. Now, human life and growth is about consumption of air, water, plants, and animals. Now, what happens when humans die? Naturally, all these components go back to the nature. Now, when you look at spirituality, it is recycled. You will go back, you will go to the another life. Whereas if you look with the science, you are but amalgamation of air, water, and the food, and the plants, and this. And when you die, it goes back. So I think in pandemic, when we talk about well-being, some of us might start to accept death as integral part of life. Well, that is not enough. And many of you are right. And when you say that World Health Organization in 2020, that is during the pandemic last year, they said that if you look at the loss of economic output for the next 20 years, and if you take one parameter of mental health, it is going to be a great benefit for public health, economic development, societal welfare. So mere investment in the mental health seem to have dramatic impact. And those of you who value money, they say that $16 trillion is the money we can generate profit if we are investing on the mental health now, more so during COVID-19 pandemic and its aftermath. Now, what should we invest in well-being? So the question of what is that we have to do individually, collectively, collaboratively is something. There are only three things. First is awareness. What is well-being? How to earn it? I have used the word earn it because you have to earn your well-being. Prevention of those things that hamper well-being and promotion of professional well-being. So these are the three components I'm going to take you in next few minutes. All that we want at the end of the day, we want a trained and a compassionate professional. I think this series is an excellent combination to make you trained and hopefully compassionate on this. So when we talk about professional well-being, I want everybody to focus on this image. Professional well-being is about your talents, your passions, and meaningful opportunities. Look how beautifully the concept of well-being changes. The first question in professional well-being is, what is your passion? Second, what is your talent? Sometimes your passion and talent may not be the same. It may not synchronize. And the third component is meaningful opportunities. You might have talent, you might be passionate, but do you have right opportunities? But when you look at the well-being of an individual outside the profession, there are too many things: physical, emotional, financial, social, occupational, intellectual, environmental, spiritual. But when you look at the professional, we have only three components. So my dear friends, I think in the pandemic, you all and we all should collectively look at what are our passions, what are our talents, and what are our opportunities. And that's what will drive the well-being. Now, what will happen? The question is, no, if I'm going to do nothing for my well-being, what will happen? And Mayo Clinic Proceeding 2017, I hope you know that Mayo Clinic is one partner with JSS with whom we ventured long back. And they have given a beautiful research document, and everybody interested can go through. They say that once you have hampered your well-being, your quality of care will deteriorate. You will do more errors in patient care. You will have more dissatisfied patients. You will obviously not be productive. Your professional efforts will deteriorate, and you will try to move from one place to another. Obviously, there are personal issues like broken relationship. You would like to smoke more, take alcohol more. You feel upset. There are chances you think of suicide. Now, by just hampering our well-being, these are what we get through our personal and professional life. Now, when we say this well-being in the context of pandemic, I think it's a very nice report which came recently that 70% of the people felt that it is more stressful in their career. Many of them had mental health issues. 37% showed signs of long distress in this lockdown, and that's how the thing. But where is this demarcation about normal and a disorder? And this comes from all these components like sleep, nutrition, relaxation, social support, exercise. And how do you distinguish a sadness from depression is what we have to know for ourselves and our students and our friends. The government of India came out with a December 2019 issue in Lancet that India seems to have one of the largest population which has a mental disorder, and they said 1 in 7 has a mental disorder, approximately 200 million. So the government or ICMR or the WHO seem to synchronize first time with the statement that there is a serious issue when we look at mental health disorder in India, and in this context of pandemic, it's going to worsen, and it is going to happen, and we can see it in our students and your colleagues and other people around us. Now, why are we discussing this, and what do you mean by the difference in sadness and depression? According to World Health Organization, because monsoons are coming, I'm going to give you an example with the monsoon. Monsoon, the analogy I've used is depression, where in depression you have sadness, irritability, lack of interest, and tiredness for more than 2 weeks continuously. Whereas sadness is like an episodic rain, which can come in summer, it can come in winter, which is a normal part of our life. So depression seems to be a different category of this. Now, how do we assess it? Very simple. There is a free questionnaire called as Patient Health Questionnaire 9. It's a simplest screening tool. It's freely available. If you want to help your student or colleague or this, you can just do the self-screening method on how and why we should look at the differentiation between sadness and depression. Now, if that was there, then what is the role of professional in prevention? There is a great danger in the pandemic and the aftermath. There is a spike in self-harm, suicidal ideation. And if you look at this from the Indian data, what happened during lockdown and pre-lockdown? Lockdown seems to have worsened domestic violence, financial problem, educational stress, illness, drug addiction, loans, and phenomenally, in many of the districts and states in India, suicide has gone up. Now, what are the warning signs? Depressed mood, death wishes, self-harm, past history of suicide attempt, family history of suicide, use of alcohol. So you might just save somebody's life if you know something. But it is not easy to remember, and that's why we wanted to come out with a very simple app which was funded by the JSS. It's called Shuffle app. It is there in your Android phone, and anybody who has an Android phone can go to Google Store and take it. It is just 1.8 MB, and it was inaugurated by Sri Abhiram Shankar. We had many people there, including our Professor Pro-Chancellor B. Suresh and Dr. Baswan Godappa during the launch of this. We are coming out with Kannada version and iOS version. And this small Android app takes you through this survey once you log in. All it does is takes some of the simplest data, what is the age, what is the gender. It picks up some very sensitive matter. It's all confidential. Nobody will have access to it. It's a self app, no human interference. And once there is a high risk category in this, you put some information and it will categorize them as take help urgently. When there is a moderate risk, it will say it's important to take help. And when there is no risk, it will say when required, you can take help. Very simple for you to help your colleague or a student. And all these are free. You can just click and it connects you to free helpline. Everything is confidential. Many of these are run by the government in 12-15 languages. Kiran is one of the most recognized free helpline services by Government of India. But many private organizations are also giving. And when we discussed those people who seem to have problems with smoking and all, we have also linked it to help to quit tobacco because it increases anxiety and many people have serious trouble with it. So one single app can take you to many of this and immediately connect. If you want an expert like a psychiatrist or clinical psychologist, it will go to the app If you Google Mysuru, it will show which doctor is available and you can consult and encourage your students and faculty. Sometimes the simple app can save so many lives. Now, once you have done, what would you like to do for well-being promotion? Now, this is an area which is of great interest of profession, and there are only two requisites. One, how good is your listening skills? Second, how good are your observation skills? In well-being promotion, they use this 5 concepts. First is connect. Connect with someone. Be very active. I think the next 2 sessions, I hope you have a wonderful speaker going to talk about how to be active. The third is giving away what you want to give. Fourth is keeping learning, which you are all doing, and take notice of what is happening. I'll take you 1 or 2 of this of great interest. Now, the 2015 Guardian said, those of you who are in this teaching profession, remember gardeners and teachers seem to have the happiest job. Now, in this professional well-being to connect, remember why we feel so happy to be a teacher, to be in this profession in the university is probably because we love interacting with the students. And Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who was closely associated with JSS institutions, he said, he wrote a wonderful letter to a Minds newsletter, which we have published in 2013. First and foremost, I love teaching. Teaching will be my soul. What a wonderful statement. And he said he got Bharata Ratna, he was a scientist, he became a president. Of all the jobs he loved was teaching. There cannot be a better person to inspire us than Dr. Abdul Kalam. Interestingly, which we forget, for professional well-being, what we have to remember is that we need to adapt ourselves to the age of student. What is this being able to adapt has to do with well-being? You will be surprised when you adapt yourself to the age of the student, when you start spending time with the student and young ones in their own world. You will receive a lot of good feedback to improve upon your professional skills. And very interestingly, we have tried that at JSS. You can see this photo. This is some of the best students who have taught us many things. And your job to connect will add a major component in well-being. So if you're already in a teaching profession, remember the Guardian says you are in the happiest job. Now, what do you mean by professional well-being in terms of promotion? There are many things we try. But some of the simple things to keep us calm or to help our students or colleagues to is that very, very important is encourage breathing. Those people who seem to slow in the breathing process very slowly, hold it and leave the breath and continue this exercise, suddenly start feeling well. And in the pandemic, I hope you remember how important breathing is about and all the exercises people are taught. And very interestingly, the second component is about humming a song of the choice. If you hum a song, suddenly your mechanism in the brain starts working and seems to synchronize with your mindset very well, and it is a great process. The third is encouraging focus on one issue. There's a wonderful YouTube video. You can watch it from BBC about what simple steps you can calm and what is the mechanism behind it. I'll not go into that component.
Exam pressure,
do you have time?
Deadlines, job interviews and presentations can all make
we
you
have time.
You have?
Just when you need
Yes,
to
sir, we
relax,
have time.
your heart's racing, your palms are sweaty, your voice sounds strange, and your mind goes blank. Well, with a little help from neuroscience, here are 3 easy and reliable techniques you can use to literally keep calm and carry on no matter what. Of course, there are other things you can do to combat stress, but this trio of tips will hopefully give you instant calm. First, a breathing exercise. I want you to take a deep belly breath through your nose for 5 seconds, hold it for a second, then push all the air out through your nose slowly, counting to 5. Repeat a few times and you'll feel calmer. For centuries, yogis and Buddhists have used controlled breathing techniques like this to gain the upper hand over the nervous system. And science is beginning to understand how it works. Researchers identified a specific network of neurons in the brainstem called the pre-Boatzinger complex that regulates breathing and communicates with other parts of the brain. Under stress, we tend to breathe very quickly as our body prepares for danger, which is useful if you need to run away, but not if you're about to speak in public. The good news is that by breathing deeply and slowly, you can change the message your brain's receiving from danger to all is well. So the next time you feel panic rising, use deep breathing through your nose to force your body into a state of calm. And the best thing is, no one will notice, not even your audience. Now you're ready for the humming. A single note, your favorite tune, literally anything will do. Why? Well, studies in how we regulate heart rate have shown that humming can stimulate one of the most important parts of the body you've never heard of, the vagus nerve. It was named the Wanderer in Latin because it emerges from the brain and meanders up and down the body like a superhighway of communication, connecting the brain to organs like the heart, lungs and stomach, voice box and ears. A 2013 study of choristers showed that singing, humming and mantras all help keep the heart's rhythm in step. So the next time you feel your heart racing, sing a song or just hum a note and let your own wandering nerve restore calm. The final tip is to focus. When you're busy, it's tempting to multitask, but if you want to stay calm and actually get stuff done, don't. Scans show your brain can only do one thing at a time. When you do 2 things at once, you have to switch between them very rapidly and gets overstimulated and floods your body with stress hormones. By working the way your brain is wired and doing one thing at a time, you can quickly go from feeling overwhelmed to calm. So break your task down into small parts or steps, circle the one thing you need to do next, and forget about the other tasks until their time comes. This is sometimes called process thinking and is used by sports coaches to help athletes focus. Doing just one thing at a time with your fullest attention keeps your mind in the here and now and is a great habit to develop. So next time you feel panic rising, stop and remember to breathe, hum, and focus. Let us know how you get on.
Great. So I hope it helped. I'll move to the next slide. Yeah. Now, the main issue with the well-being promotion is also about how to demote mobile phone usage. And that's the most trickiest part, and there is increasing evidence. More use of more mobile phone, you feel more tired, you feel more lonely and more distressed. Now, its most important task in the use of mobile phone now is that how to say no. And who should say no to the mobile? It's obviously used, but there are wonderful apps so that you can disconnect everything from the world. But Ireland became the first country which gave legal right to disconnect and protect work-life balance 21st May 2021. The report came in BBC Work Life. It's an amazing thing how countries are trying to help for professional well-being, and more importantly, if you are able to do through yourself, and if you are able to disconnect and move to a real world, it's a wonderful process. And the major issue in the pandemic is about those people who simply had hundreds and thousands of friends in the Facebook, Instagram and all, starting to feel the loneliness. And many have felt that the virtual friends of less use, and you should really have some real good friends. And an investment in a real friend, let the number be as less as 2 or 4 or 5, it's a great reward in the well-being at the workplace, at the homes and our neighborhoods and some of our distant friends. I think it's a time for you to reconsider your virtual friends and start moving towards real good friends in the neighborhood. Now I'm coming to this wonderful issue of well-being promotion and the issues related to hobbies. And there's a very nice statement which came in Bombay Hospital Journal. And Bombay Hospital, I hope, and the Bombay city, all of you know that how badly it was affected, but it also caters to some of the best things what we have learned from. What he said was, many health professionals have no hobbies. They say they have no time for hobbies. The one who admits to have time like to watch TV or mobile. And this is unsatisfactory state of affairs. Quite long back, 10 years back, somebody made a great observation about health professionals. And can a hobby be tailored to professional well-being? And does it allow us for deep reflection? Does it humble our existence? There seems to be a lot of professional hobbies which seem to help us in coping up. For example, the medicine department at JSS, Dr. Shashidhar, has written wonderfully about COVID-19. He says, virusಗಳು ಕೆಣಕ್ಕೆ ಕಂಗಾಲಾಗುತ್ತವೆ, ಲಾಕ್ಡೌನ್ ಬೇಕು ಆಸೆಗೆ, ಸೀಲ್ ಡೌನ್ ಬೇಕು ದುರಾಸೆಗೆ. Like this, people seem to have come out with what they have seen in their profession and express in these kind of things. And they seem to do really well once they have integrated hobbies in their lives. But more interestingly, how is that hobbies are going to help well-being? Do they really enhance professional skills? This is a question. And one of the most reputed journals in medical science, Mayo Clinic, there's the original research which talks about if you give students Sherlock Holmes and another group of students just the same kind of teaching learning. Interestingly, those people who read Sherlock Holmes were very good in helping the patient with clinical diagnosis management. Surprisingly, this concept of disruptive learning, when you mix and match many things in your profession and hobby, the results are dramatic, and it came with the most reputed journals you can think of. So think what hobbies can add to your professional well-being, and that might be a model for students to take it. And there is a lot of hobbies which you can do at home. And now it is a time, whether it is cooking, reading books, painting, gardening, music, or yoga, dance at home, nature watch, seem to have dramatic impact on your well-being in the middle of pandemic. Now, the question, all this discussion about COVID-19 centric approach, why is the focus on hobbies in well-being? One of my favorite professors in Australia, he says, only busy people have time. So it is never too late to nurture a hobby, not to be given up during the pandemic. A time for hobbies is indeed a time devoted for care for self and significant others. And it is going to be a great step towards well-being. And unhappiness is a very expensive hobby. And for well-being, we have to give up. With this, I conclude my talk and take up the discussions and question. Thank you so much for the listening. Session is open. I'll hand it over to the organizing committee.
Thank you, sir, for your enlightening and informative session, covering all the aspects of well-being and more. Well-being and optimism are not just candy to the soul and brain, but are also crucial fundamentals for our overall health and well-being, and is also the basic essence of living. Thank you, sir, for educating us on the importance of well-being, letting us know that it is not just about feeling happy all the time, but about being happy with oneself, training ourselves to cope up with challenges that arise, and feeling a sense of purpose. With your session, you've definitely put a lot of ideas about well-being into perspective. Thank you again, sir. I would now like to invite Dr. Samya to express her thoughts on the importance of well-being. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Nikita. Good morning to everyone. So thank you, Kishor sir, for sharing your knowledge on well-being. So we appreciate and we try to learn and adapt your positive thinking. And so definitely we enjoyed. And this brings us to the end of the talk, revisiting well-being. Though they've asked me to give a summary, but I'm sure everybody has totally understood what Kishor sir said. So I'll just tell the subtitles under which sir explained. So well-being is having an optimal psychological experience and functioning. Sir explained us about parameters for revisiting well-being, how revisiting well-being helps in this COVID pandemic, revisiting concepts like awareness, prevention, promotion of well-being, what well-being consisted of earlier and what it is now, the components in well-being like the passion, talent, opportunities, why mental health is important for well-being. He told us about the differences between the depression and sadness and the role of the professional in prevention. He told us about the app which we can use. Sir explained about what promotes well-being like the hobbies and say no to the mobile usage. He explained very well about breathing, humming songs, and focus on one issues which will help us to be well in this COVID situation. Nourishing these integrative actions and their implications for the world of practice is worth goal for well-being. So a take-home message is that increasing evidences supports the health protective features of well-being in reducing the risk for disease and promoting the length of life. So with this, so can we go ahead with question and answers?
Yes, madam, I'm ready.
Well-being is an experience of health, happiness, and prosperity. It includes having good mental health, high life satisfaction, a sense of meaning or purpose, and ability to manage stress. So this is by Prabhat Prasad. So we have only this here. Sumuk?
Ma'am, there are a couple of questions in the chat box.
Okay. Yeah.
Nandlal sir has posted a question.
Ma'am, we have few questions in the chat box.
Okay. I'll just open that. Does working causes depression or it is otherwise? Dr. Nandalal's question.
Does underworking related depression affect life? Underworking is what.
Yeah, I got it, sir. And thank you for the wonderful question. The first answer I would like to say is yes, underworking causes depression. Why? The question is about throughout the evolution of mankind, our well-being has been associated with the work we do. The less we do, the more problem we get into or feel lonely. So there is an evolutionary backup. You should do and continue to do the work. And underworking is definitely quite problematic for your well-being. But on the flip side, if you are overworked, it is going to hamper. So when this question of burnout comes, it is actually about those people who seem to have worked more than what is required. And there is a very thin border between what is optimal working and what is excessive working. So it requires a lot of subjective and very good colleague who can tell us about how optimally we are working or how underworking we are. And it relates to constant reflection about what we should do. Should we enhance our working skills? Should we go up for more or should we come down? So the answer to your question, I hope I have done. Underworking definitely hampers and some people, it makes them more dull. And in pandemic, those people who are very active have felt so lonely because they have not taken up any work or they have just been pushed to do no work. Apart from healthcare professional and other people, most of them have felt more lonely and more sad. And it adds to your statement, underwork does cause problem. Yes. Any other question?
So there's another question by Dr. Shrikala Sujay.
Yeah.
She has asked, hello, sir. Which site can we get counseling? Is it expert consult?
Yeah, so those sites we want to approach, there are commercial and those which are done for purely through NGOs. For commercial, there is a site called as Inner Hour. It's from India, and there is something called as yourdost.com. Inner Hour is now much more popular than the Your Dost. But if you want other free services, the Rehabilitation Council of India, RCI, also gives the list of all 600 plus professionals who are ready to offer free service during pandemic. So you can go through it, or you can go to our app, SAFAL, SAFAL app. In that also we have tried to give link to free services by some of the people. So there are a lot of organizations which have come up with a free service, and I can send a couple of them. Some of them have dedicated to healthcare professionals, like I think Bangalore Tree Foundation. So there is a lot of paid services and free services for professional counseling. I can send the link to as many people as possible. Yeah, next.
So there's one more question by her. How to overcome the guilt of underworking and not earning much?
Very, very interesting question. When we say guilt, it is usually means that you have evaluated for yourself that you are not working to the optimal level. So the guilt comes from one's own consciousness. It reflects that the person is very conscious of the entire process of what is happening. I think that's a good sign of recovery. So one of the best strategies is to talk to someone, how to carry out that. Sometimes there is something called as mentorship. Usually, irrespective of the position you hold, you pick up somebody as your mentor. Very interestingly, a very well-known surgeon in United States, Dr. Atul Gawande, he wrote a wonderful book. Now he is in the US task force. He said he hired an ex-surgeon to just be with him and see what skills he has. And very interestingly, just like a sportsman who has a coach, this mentor was so good in enhancing this person's professional skill. The book is widely known. You can just Google Dr. Atul Gawande and you will get why this mentorship is important in addressing such concept about guilt and underperforming. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So there is another question by Dr. Suman. How can we help people in depression professionally?
Yes, that's an interesting question. Many people would like to address the issue once you have developed some rapport with the person. Rapport is a time-consuming process where the other person feels that you really and you are genuinely are interested to care. So if you know that person, the best way is to just talk to them, and you have come out with this observation, and then you tell them what options are possible. And we are coming out with a module which we have already published. I think in next few days, we will have a small workshop on how do you do mental health facilitator. That's a component called as BATE, assessing the background, hand-holding, and empathetically helping a person. They are simple component, but just use the right word, be in the context, let it be under one-to-one interaction, then is the best way to help a person with depression. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is by Dr. Vidya. Does peer pressure affect professional well-being?
Obviously, it does affect professional well-being, but it is important that each individual should have his own consistent way to accept peer pressure. One of the coping mechanisms is that peer pressure, whenever it is harmful, it is best disregarded. So you should decide what kind of peers you want to be surrounded and what kind of support you expect from them. If it is counterproductive, obviously you should move out of that zone and try to focus. But remember, some very good friends are very good critics. So this criticism, if it is coming from a very good friend, I think it's a hallmark of a very good peer pressure. That's my opinion. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So there's one more question.
Yeah.
He's expressed his views like there's a lot of anxiety related with the COVID-19 second wave. What are the major steps we need to suggest for over-anxious people?
It's a very nice question, and being anxious is there in everybody, and anxiety has a very good and a productive role in sustaining life. So it is wrong to assume that every anxiety creates problem. For example, if you are not anxious that we will get infected, we would not wear a mask. If we are not anxious that we might spread the infection to our parents or elderly neighborhood, we would obviously disregard the social distancing. So there are very good things. Now, when is this anxiety becoming problem? When it is impairs the professional or a functional role of an individual. Suppose it is creating problem again and again in your functional role and a professional, where you need to really relook. And I gave you very simple YouTube video about breathing exercise, focusing on one thing, humming songs. And these are some of the very simple strategies. But anybody who has always done a physical activity like a yoga or pranayama or shavasana or a walk, they seem to have better regulation of anxiety. But if it is crossing certain limit, there is a very good support center, and everybody should feel strengthened by taking help when you are very anxious. That's what I would recommend.
Kishor sir, Dr. Sheila ma'am has a question here.
Yeah.
Health professionals are always seeing people having COVID. So how do the health professional maintain their mental condition?
Yeah, and that's a major issue, and all of us, including myself, who have been constantly exposed with the risk of COVID and seeing COVID, we all feel that. And one of the important tasks we should do is about scheduling. Scheduling and prioritizing tasks gives us a scope to help us handle that. Most of these people who work 8 hours, 12 hours, after they come home, most of them, they spend a lot of time going back to the mobile phone, listening to all the news and the adverse comments which come. The best strategy is to shut down those things and take a long walk, have a nice conversation on neutral topic. And suppose you are overwhelmed with by an issue at the workplace in relation to your interaction with the COVID, there is something called as debriefing. At the end of the day, you are supposed to discuss how you feel for at least 30-40 minutes when you wind up your job, so that you feel relieved of what is happening and just give up there then. But once you come back, it's again putting the priorities of some rigorous exercises if it is possible, or a gentle walk, changing the scenario to a little more joyful if you have a child or young ones at the home, or even a pet animal. There can be a lot of ways to cope up those works which has taken all your energy, and a refreshing sleep without a cup of coffee or a tea or a smoke or alcohol. I think that should suffice. But if it crosses a limit, I think you should take help. I hope I have answered.
Thank you, sir. So one more, Shrikala Suja is asked for the app which you just told for psychological help. Can you please spell it?
Inner Hour is a commercial app. Inner Hour, it's a commercial app. It is now popular. Yourdose.com is another. Our app is SAFL, SAFL. It's for self-assessment, but it has given some options of free link. SAFL. It's there in your MCQ also. Some of you have solved and rightly picked up SAFL app. These are some of the apps which are popular at this point of time for counseling or taking help.
Thank you, sir. Nikita, over to you.
Thank you, sir and ma'am, for answering the questions. I would now like to request Dr. Kishor to accept our token of appreciation. And thank you, Dr. Samya.
Thank you, Kishor,
for sharing your insights.
Sorry, you can go ahead, Nikita.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you, Dr. Samya, for sharing your insights. I request you to kindly accept our token of gratitude. We shall start with the next session in another 5 to 10 minutes.